All right, hello again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Men in Black and White, an honest conversation. As you all know, unless you've been living under a rock, Charlie Kirk is dead. Brock and Ellis joins me now from the beautiful confines of the Hudson River Valley, just north of New York City. And Brock, political violence leads to nothing but fear. Political violence is not politics. And there is no reason for a man to lose his life because you have differing opinions. Our hearts go out to his wife and children. This guy, I didn't realize how young he was. He's only 31. I mean, I have a son that's older than that. I have a son that's a year younger. The fact that he was on the other side of the ledger from what we believe and from what we advocate does not mean any of us want to see him lose his life. What say you?
Yeah, I actually didn't even know he was that old. I didn't even know he was married because he does so many events on college campuses. I thought he was like right out of school and was really young. Like, I don't follow him, obviously very aware of who he is.
Right.
I didn't realize he was such a hardcore Second Amendment advocate. And I also didn't realize that he was so callous to other victims of gun violence. Which has got some people with maybe let's call it less decorum, sort of
sensitive,
still celebrating a bit. I mean, it's increasing, right?
Yeah.
Judges were gunned down, right? The woman right in her home. That was like a year or so ago. Then you had the shootings up in Minneapolis, right? Clear political violence. One of the two passed away, the woman and her husband, too, but one survived, and the speaker of the Minneapolis, Senate, right?
Right.
Died now, Charlie Kirk. So, I mean, there was also a school shooting today, that'll get lost in the shuffle because, a bigger news shooting happened.
Sure.
I mean, a lot of fiery rhetoric and
what do we expect?
pretty much access to guns, easy access to guns. I mean, it's still the guns no matter who the victim is. It's still, we allow too much easy access. We don't know who the shooter is yet. I don't believe. I haven't seen anything, right? Older person must have been, I mean, my guess would be military or a hunter because the shot appears to have come from a pretty far distance and it appears to have only been one shot from the video I saw.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, too many guns, too many, there's always been people that are mad, angry, crazy, and the like. That's always been the case. But now it's easy access to guns, concealed weapons, and just the rampant usage.
Right.
So,
and, it is, disturbing that we as a country will continue to see these kinds of incidents. I mean, there is video of that bullet hitting him in the neck. And we will have people that look at this. Obviously we've got those callous individuals online, but we will have people that look at this, somewhat glorify it, somewhat justify the need for weapons. We'll have people come on and say, we need more guns. Now, I don't care how many guns you had. How will you stop this, right? No one even saw the shooter. Apparently, from what mainstream media is reporting, they don't even know who the shooter is or where the shot came from. I thought it was just somebody standing right in front of him. But I just heard an eyewitness account that said she just saw him get hit.
From the back, yeah, they feel like it came from, and it was a pretty big crowd there. I mean, look, a few days ago there was a shooting, right, and there was some connection to transgender. I didn't even dig in and know the whole story. So then there's, I think even Charlie Kirk today was talking about, whether transgender gun rights should be banned, right? Like there'd be, sort of an amendment to the Second Amendment, right?
Right.
And it's just absurd conversation that it went to there. I guess what bums me out is I'm sitting here, I worry about who the shooter was and what kind of manifesto they left. Because if it's a left-wing shooter, then it's going to argue for more ICE crackdowns or some sort of political retribution. Right. If it's a crazy right-wing shooter, it's gonna, who knows, maybe create some sort of civil war-ish amongst MAGA because it would seem like that would be MAGA and MAGA violence. I don't know, but we always have to worry about, right? If it's a black person, you have to worry about retribution in the black community. What if it was a Jewish guy? right? If it's a Jewish guy, I got to worry about retribution coming to the Jewish community, right? So now we have to sweat out who the shooter was and what their reasoning is and how that's going to be spin doctored and which group of people may have an increased threat tonight and tomorrow. And that's like ultimately the problem, right? Because violence just leads to more.
Right. Because we've seen how many mosque shootings. I still haven't gotten personally, knowing the city of Charleston intimately, having family in Charleston, South Carolina. I've still not gotten over the shooting at the church there, the Dylan Roof incident. You know, we've seen far too many mass shootings. But then again, this is what we do in America. Let's go back to the civil rights movement. Malcolm X, Dr. King, Medgar Evers, I mean, RFK, right? JFK. This is what we do when we're upset with the political process. And I would argue none of it moved the needle politically. I mean, what say you historically about the violence that we've seen in this country was born out of violence, born out of the Civil War, right? To get away from the tyrannical autocracy of the British. And then, you know, we built our economy on the violence and, you know, rapture of a people, kidnapping of a people, torturing of a people to get a free workforce, of which we've, you know, now 400 years later, looking at billions and trillions of dollars earned, and, you know, and we're still angry. Right? America's still angry. You know, black people literally, like black folks I know, if I say to them, you know, white America don't want us to have shit, they say, you know it. I mean, we feel like that because of what we've witnessed historically. What are your thoughts on the violence historically in our country and how it impacts the political process?
I mean, at times it's had a massive impact, right? But we've had political violence from the get. But look, America's Civil War, right? The revolution, right, it was a violent revolution, right? It was a war that fought for freedom, right? And then somehow, as we're forming as a country, Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr are out like doing a duel and shooting each other, right? Like, you know, so we back then, right? Oh, let's take this outside, right? We think that like they were such statesmen, right? One of the greatest statesmen ever, but somehow he was out like in duels. Then we have a civil war. Lincoln gets shot. Like our presidents get shot pretty frequently. Let's remember, like it was like a year ago, Trump came very close to being assassinated. Now that leads to but political shootings in America always lead to conspiracy theories too.
Right.
So I don't think they've ever really impacted change or necessarily moved the needle. Mm-hmm. They tried to, you know, in essence, white people tried to put down the civil rights movement by killing the leaders. And some were killed, like, in essence, with government backing. It didn't ultimately derail the movement. I mean, Reagan got shot. He survived. Trump almost got shot. I mean, the difference between Trump and Charlie Kirk, right, was the Charlie Kirk shooter was a marksman. And the kid in Pennsylvania just was, whatever, scattershot and missed. So I don't see how it ends as long as we're a violent country with a violent history that solves things by violence really quickly. And it's going on everywhere. Like, what was the motivation of this shooter at the school in Colorado today? We don't know the motivation. Just disaffected, angry, most of the times young white men. This one supposedly might have been an older white man, so who knows?
Right.
But we never talk about gun control seriously, right? Never talk about it seriously, right? I mean, I read where this shooting happened today actually just passed something where they're allowed for like concealed carry on the campus. Like, what would possibly be the reason why you would want to allow that? What good could possibly come out of that? I mean, it certainly made it easier for Charlie Kirk to get shot because if you have concealed carry, you can sneak in with no one seeing your gun. No one sees your gun till it's already been fired. So, I mean, I'm just disgusted with America when it comes to shootings, and
Joe
this
Biden.
won't be the last one. That's the only thing I know.
Nope. Joe Biden says there is no place for this kind of violence in our country. It must end now. Jill and I are praying for Charlie Kirk's family and loved ones. Thoughts and prayers.
Okay, and yet now, but we're deploying thousands of, ICE troops armed to the gills on our American streets. We can say there's no place for this kind of violence in this country, but we're asking for it. We're begging for it every day. We're inciting it every day.
Brock, do you think Trump feels any responsibility for this on his shoulders?
No. And I don't think he feels any remorse either. I'm sure somebody wrote a tweet for him that, he was told he's supposed to send out. He'll turn this into,
Right.
This will be political in a heartbeat. Right. I mean, it probably already is. While we're talking, the political machine is probably already spinning this, inflaming this, using this, positioning this to somehow reinforce or increase policies that are already in motion. Project 2025 will just... This is more coal on their, on their fire, on their burner.
Right. Yeah, it's frustrating, man. I actually have a good friend from when I lived in Colorado. Her son actually went to Utah Valley University and was a track runner there, ran track there. So, again, it's north of Provo. I guess you could call it southern Utah. It's not near Salt Lake, closer to BYU. Again, the kind of atmosphere in Utah is a more right-wing, more conservative type of base that you see there. Mike Lee, enormously popular there, and I don't know why. Doesn't seem like the sharpest knife in the drawer. But, again, it's a state that doesn't have a lot of diversity.
Yeah, not at all.
I mean, the Mormon Church has a relationship with the American Samoan community and Pacific Islanders. So you see a lot of those folks in and around the Mormon Church in the Salt Lake area. And you have a lot of religious zealots there too as well. You also have the Mormons. So it's an eclectic mix when it comes to the religious ideology.
Yeah, this could be anyone from anywhere though. Remember, right. the shooter in Manhattan drove across country from Las Vegas. Didn't sleep, right? The guy was probably, doing cocaine and Red Bull for 26 hours, and then he got out of his car and just shot up what he thought was the NFL offices because it was in his head that he had to get some sort of retribution. Right. Maybe this is a local person. Maybe it's someone who knew Charlie Kirk was going there and drove there to, to gun him down because they had a beef with something he said, right? This guy... He commentates. Was he on every night? So he had a lot of opinions on a lot of topics. He
had a very popular podcast.
Yeah, but he could also rub anyone the wrong way with anything he said any night, right? And it could just set someone off. And we obviously knows a lot of people not in the quite in the right mental state, but everybody has guns. So it's just easier to do more damage quickly. Do you think today will have there'll be even an inkling of talk about any kind of revision of any gun laws?
No, absolutely not. From whom? Not the people in charge right now. The Republican Party doesn't want anything to do with it. And Brock, from the video I'm looking at, it appears that they are still searching the campus. So I don't know why they would be undergoing this kind of formation in terms of law enforcement if they had someone in custody. So we've got varying reports. The university says no one's in custody. Apparently there was a law enforcement division that said there was someone in custody. So, I'll keep watching and see what we find. But absolutely not, to answer your question. We didn't do anything after 26 people were killed in an elementary school with an AR-15, which must have been an absolutely horrific episode to go through. Brock, have you ever heard how loud an AR is when it's fired? Okay, on the gun range, it scares you. I was at a gun range with my son, my youngest, He wanted it for a birthday present. We took him to this is when we lived in Cincinnati. And he's standing there shooting. I'm just, kind of laying back, watching. I have no interest at this point in shooting guns. I'm just there with him. And I, all of a sudden, hear this cannon. And it goes off several times in a row. And I don't see anybody falling down. I try to control whatever that noise is. So I go back to the range attendant and ask him to remove his earphones. And he says, what is that? What is that cannon out here? And we were indoors. And he said, that's an AR-15. And I peeked back and looked at it, and it scared the lights out of me. I was like, oh my God, imagine a 7-year-old, 6-year-old, 5-year-old getting hit with that thing. And I thought to myself, I never want to be around that noise again. I mean, I still don't understand the fascination with that noise, with shooting the weapon itself.
Yeah, something about the power, I guess. Yeah, never really got sucked into gun culture, wasn't brought up on it, never understood the fascination. But unfortunately, increasing numbers or the same number of people are getting increasing firepower, making America more and more dangerous all the time. And there's more and more of this weaponry now on our streets in the hands of what are obviously, untrained people, because they don't even have time to train them properly on the arms that are being given to DHS and ICE agents, right? They're just being handed like advanced weaponry and sent out on the streets of America because they're just hiring people left and right. So we know they're not doing proper vetting, and we know they're not doing proper training. They're just putting people in vans and sending them out to the streets. So we have this arms problem, at the highest, most official government levels.
Right. Yeah, it's a nightmare, bro. It really is. And, the fact that we can't get, legislation passed on it. I mean, again, it goes right back to the gun lobby. It goes right back to the money that's generated from weapon sales, ammunition, hunting, the business of hunting. Bass Pro Shop. Where would Bass Pro Shops be without its gun section?
Bigger than the money, though. I think it's the idea that what is this Project 2025 group. I think they've wanted a well-armed militia because they always felt it was their people that were gathering the weapons. And they feel like it's their people that are out there well-armed. That's a big concern. It's why we got to, nip what's going on in the bud as quick as possible. You were saying we can't wait, right, to the midterms. Like, you have to get out there aggressively and look to make change. I mean, did you see what happened? Did you see what has gone on in Nepal over the past 72 hours?
No.
They had in essence, they had protests that turned violent very quickly and may or may not have overthrown the government. But, it just goes to show how quickly things can escalate.
Right.
And I'll continue to be amazed that it hasn't in any way escalated here as yet with the increased weapons that are out there.
Well, and again, Brock, the other thing is, of course, our predisposition with our lives and, our soccer games and Friday night lights and all that crap, stuff that seems hardly important when you look at the loss of democracy. We just don't give a damn enough to try to save our democracy. I mean, we've been talking about the complacency since, Trump put his hand somewhere near the Bible and talked about maybe upholding the Constitution, which we all knew he had no plans on doing. So, we get what we vote for, right? We voted for this. We've got this. And I don't know where we go from here. because
Okay,
this can
so
only get worse. This
so
can only get worse because now somebody's going to hear that this was some left wing conspiracy and go after some left wing, podcaster, popular podcaster, right? Charlie Kirk. Think back about how influential he was in 2016. He was the one who got the youth movement going in 2016.
yeah, supposedly he gets a lot of the credit for the fact that younger voters turned more conservative. I mean, the numbers weren't great, but they improved. It was one place where they showed improvement.
Right.
People like him, and his messaging, gets, a certain amount of credit for that.
Right.
There's no doubt. I just worry it's going to be twisted. Yeah, it's going to be twisted. It's going to be blamed on the left. It's going to be used as a reason for more crackdowns. The threats on Democrat and or left-wing voices are going to be just exponentially up right here in the near term. I don't think anyone in the public eye is going to be able to feel any element of safety for probably a prolonged period of time. And I think everyone's going to have to be watching their back. And, everyone meaning high profile.
Right.
High profile people are going to really have to be watching their back. There's a chance that there's like, quote, retribution to this. Even if the shooter was the most right wing, Second Amendment advocate and who knows, a Charlie Kirk lover, it would still get painted as something, engineered by the left, right? The conspiracy theorists are just going to be all over this one. So this is going to have a ripple effect, and this is going to make America more dangerous for a lot of people right here in the near term.
Right.
But the only way for us to change it is to have that broad people-based movement. I did see No Kings did put a date on the calendar. It's like October 24th, I think. 24th, 27th. So it's about a month-ish away. And it's going to have to be huge numbers because we're going to have to really start, arguing for change. Because the courts are a disaster. The Supreme Court's an embarrassment. They've rolled over on key issues again and again. The election's too far away. 14 months.
Yep. We can't withstand 14 more months of Trump and this right-wing ideology. And look, we saw what they did on January 6th when they weren't happy about an election. Now one of their prominent rising stars has been murdered. I mean, this is what they need, to engage, against more black and brown people, against more of the left that they can't stand. And look, Brock, we know who the biggest domestic threat is in America right now. It's white men with this right-wing ideology. Our FBI told us that. Pre-Trump, they told us that. And we knew that. So, I'm in a red state, bro. I'm scared. Because you never know what can pop off around here. We already had the CDC shooting this year. We've got Atlanta the violent. Although crime is not what it used to be, there is still an inordinate amount of gang violence that we have not been able to get a grasp on. And, now we have this. And I'm out in a more rural / suburban area where there are more guns. I'm in between Athens and Atlanta. A lot of rural area in Athens and Atlanta. So this is scary stuff, man.
Yeah. This is going to rile up a lot of people. It's going to be a dangerous next several days at least. I mean, sad to say, but the story probably won't carry past this then. This will get the Epstein story off the headlines for at least a day. So Trump will be happy about that. We would have spent today talking about all the bullshit around the signatures on the Epstein book and how they're trying to push that lie through and parsing, one little, dot on a signature when, it's kind of obvious that Trump is so deep in this, but they're trying to bullshit their way through that.
Yeah.
I mean, that would have been the focus. We would have been talking about ICE troops in more cities. We would have been talking about how Poland had to shoot down Russian drones and Putin's now just threatening more More countries that Israel bombed Qatar and we did or didn't know about it, right? So we've been talking about all these other problems in the world, but instead we have a high profile shooting. So that'll take our attention for a couple of days.
Right, right. I don't even know where we start on this, just to we've got the wrong guy in leadership to say, hey, we need a message of unity. That's not coming from
No.
this clown, right? And then so it falls back on the Democrats who have already been accused of not being fighters, right? To say, hey, we need everybody to be level-headed, right? When we really need them to be saying, hey, now is the time for change. If we don't get change, we're going to keep having more of these kinds of incidents. And so, here we go again round the mulberry bush. And it's just sad, man, for this country, for what we meant to the world. The rest of the world is obviously not coming here. We're not the shining star on the hill, as we've pointed out numerous times over the last 9 months.
South Korea had to charter a plane and fly it to Georgia to get their people out of here, right? Get them out of shackles and get them out of here. I don't know what goes on with that Hyundai plant, right? Does that just sit empty now? But they ain't coming back. They ain't investing a penny back in the U.S. and they're going to go build their plant somewhere else now, right? They got the memo, right? It's pretty clear message from ICE. They weren't welcome here.
And that costs us billions of dollars, hundreds of jobs.
Yeah, jobs.
Cheaper vehicles, right? Those destination costs, origination costs, all that stuff, right? All because of a Karen who decided to blow the whistle. And many of those folks were here on proper visas.
Visas. Yeah.
So
we welcomed them and then we kicked them out. I mean, that story is just a fucking absurdity of American policy and why Trump's policies are failing economically because they don't fit together. Yeah, those are all other things we would have been talking about, which would have been higher priority. Maybe we would have been excited about the fact that in the special election in Virginia, the Democrat destroyed the Republican. Now, it was a Democratic seat, so it wasn't a pickup, but it was a huge shift in the voting percentages, which is scaring the shit out of the MAGA because they're getting crushed in all these sort of off-time elections.
Absolutely. I posted about 50 minutes ago, so that would have been, 4:45 or so Eastern time. Charlie Kirk has died. Prayers to his wife and children. Check out some of the responses. Thoughts and prayers. Release the Epstein files. Here's another one from DM Fowl. This one says, this is what Kirk said after a mass shooting in church where children died. It's worth it to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment. We're seeing a lot about that right now. Eddie McCrae, thoughts and prayers, release the Epstein files. Oliver Hunter, yep, thoughts and prayers. Ben Jones, racism is very expensive. That is absolutely true. Yeah,
Yeah, we're not gonna get a lot of sympathy here from anyone on the left because of how callous Charlie Kirk was relative to other gun deaths, right? So it's easy to throw the karma argument out there, but it's just too many deaths, even for people who in essence made fun of other people's deaths. It's just too many, and it's going to lead to more. And we can't even have a conversation about fixing it. And sadly, gun control is now ranks like 15th on the list of priorities, right? There's so much worse shit going on. So school shootings barely make headlines anymore. They're barely front page stories. They're page 6 or 7 in the 3 local papers that are still around, right? They're not a big story anymore. It's old news.
Hey, before we go, Barack Obama just weighed in. The former president says, we don't know yet what motivated the person who shot and killed Charlie Kirk, but this kind of despicable violence has no place in our democracy. Michelle and I will be praying for Charlie's family tonight. especially his wife Erica and their 2 young children. So, yeah. Um, Sad, unnecessary, and and again, we have the wrong leadership for this kind of tumult in our society at this point. Who knows where we go from here, bro?
So I got my quick hit of the day.
Okay.
The quick hit is, I don't know if it relates to Charlie Kirk getting shot. So the quick hit of the day is, that I had picked up the ball and started a TikTok page for Two Men in Black and White for us.
Sure.
And Two Men in Black and White has been permanently suspended from TikTok.
What?
Yeah, we were permanently suspended from TikTok for, quote, repeated violations of their policy. Which I have to be honest, I never read their probably 1,000-page policy handbook, right? That's in small print somewhere. Apparently for the content of, which are basically 1-minute clips from our podcasts were deemed improper content for TikTok.
Wow.
Did you find that surprising? Like, I don't know. My wife was like, did you call someone? I'm like, who are we going to call? Am I going to call someone in China? Like, the free speech capital of the world? China is going to... But why? This is what scares me a little about all the platforms. They get to play God, right? Who knows what the policy was? Was it because we said negative things about Trump? Is TikTok trying to stay on his good side? Is that a consistent policy? What content possibly could we have put out that would be considered in any way dangerous or inflammatory?
Right.
And there's no recourse. And what does get to stay on their platform? So
It's crazy.
yeah, it's kind of crazy. I just thought that maybe my login was messed up, this and that, and then I was wondering why I couldn't post something. And it's just vaporized. Now I go to log in and it just doesn't exist. Like, we don't exist anymore. So we got to 100 users and we got suspended.
Wow.
So, I mean, this is maybe a further conversation for something else. And I see where First Right Amendment advocates kind of come out and get frustrated by the platforms. But it's like, whoa, so we've been silenced on that China-owned platform.
Right. Oh, there's a surprise.
And I was never a fan of TikTok, but I thought, all right, I won't go on X. I won't go on any Zuckerberg platform. Okay, where am I going to go and maybe see if we can get our clips out there to a wider audience? And it lasted maybe 2-3 weeks.
Disappointing. Good gracious. All right, my friend. We're leaving on leaving on an up note.
We're still on Blue Sky.
We're still on Blue Sky.
Still
Follow us
Blue
in
Sky.
Black and White. Still on YouTube.
One platform that we could come to some accord with.
Right.
But yeah, that's all we got for today.
Right.
We'll pick it up tomorrow.
Sounds good. Always a pleasure. Peace.